Hello, I'm Maker410, and welcome to my channel, where I focus on 3-inch revolvers and firearms chambered in the 410 bore shot shell. Let's check out today's video.
Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to be covering how much does barrel length affect the velocity of 45 Colt loads. Whew. So we have 3 different types of 45 Colt ammunition today. We have some Cowboy action loads that are just labeled as 45 Colt Cowboy action loads, 200 grain. They look like a round nose flat point, no velocity listed. We have some Armscor Cowboy action loads, 255 grain, also a flat point, but maybe more of a semi-wad cutter flat point, 255 grain, no velocity listed. And we have some double tap 45 Colt, 250 grain full metal jacket, which also has a flat point on it. And it has a listed velocity of 950 feet per second. We're going to be trying them out of a variety of firearms, and we're going to check the velocities with the Garmin, and we're just going to see how much barrel length matters. If there's a length at which the velocity sort of peters out, doesn't go any faster, and we'll see if we can't get an idea of what these Cowboy action loads are actually pushing velocity wise, since there's nothing listed on them. All right, I'm going to bring you guys in and check out the bullets and the firearms a little bit closer, and then we'll set up for the rest. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so here we have our 3 different types of 45 Colt that we'll be shooting today. 200 grain, 255 grain, and 250 grain. And we will be shooting them out of our 3-inch barrel Bond Arms Rowdy, which gets about 1.5 inches after you put the 45 Colt in it. Our 2-inch barrel Taurus Judge Poly Protector. Our 3-inch barrel Taurus Judge Magnum. Our 5.125-inch barrel Taurus Raging Hunter. And 454 Casull, so that'll be interesting. Our Rossi Brawler with a 9-inch barrel. Our Taurus Judge Home Defender with a 13-inch barrel. And then our Rossi Survival Gun with a 16-inch barrel. All right, everyone, I'm going to get us set up for the actual shooting. See you in a moment. Okay, everyone, we're going to start with our Cowboy action loads, and we're going to do this in order of barrel length. So our first 2 shots are going to be from the Bond Arms Rowdy. We're at 10 yards from the targets. See if I'm any better at hitting this guy than I was last time. Again, this is 200 grains. 442. And 432. And we're going to do a 3rd shot. We're going to do 3 shots from each of these. And our 3rd shot. 381. Wow, that's way lower than I thought it would be compared to the other 2. All right, so our average there is 418.6. Next, we're loading up our Poly Protector. I imagine we'd get around 600 feet per second out of these, is my guess. Let's take a look-see. 461. Well, my guess would be super wrong. 500. And 525.9 for an average of 495.9. A little bit lower than I thought they'd be. Very gentle, very mild. I could see these being great for use in cowboy action shooting. Let's move on over to our Taurus Judge Magnum. Now, not only does this guy have a 3-inch barrel, so an extra inch of barrel length, but he also has a little bit more cylinder length since he's chambered for 3-inch 410 shot shells. If this is going... Yeah, maybe we'll see a big bump. Maybe we'll just see a small bump in speed. 578, okay. 600, all right, that's better. 507, wow, all over the place. 562 is our average. Very mild, but we expect that from our Cowboy actions. New firearm to the channel, the Raging Hunter. Oh yeah, I forgot this guy has 2 cylinder releases because it is chambered in 454 Casull. Let's see what 5 inches of barrel length gets us for our velocity. 709. Wow, an extra 200 feet per second there. And you can feel it in the gun. 719. And 714 for an average of 714.6. That was nice. No complaints here. Time to try it out in the Brawler. This thing is such a hoot to shoot. $730. All right, that's not bad. $683.7. All right, that's a little bit lower than what I was expecting. I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit closer to like 780 or 800. And 663.2 for an average of 692.4. Man, it may look like that with this particular Cowboy load that a 9-inch barrel is a little too long. All right. Now we're going to try it in the Taurus Judge Home Defender. Let's see what we get. $687.2. 765.6. And 750.7 for an average of 734.5. Well, maybe 9 inches isn't the limit. Let's see what we get out of our Rossi survival gun. $721.7. $761.2. And 746.6 for an average of 743.2. All right, well, that was kind of interesting. They all went a little bit higher every time. Gained a little bit of velocity, but nothing dramatic. It appears that the sweet spot really is that 5-inch barrel on the Raging Hunter. Everything else that's bigger than it is unnecessary for any real performance increase. All right, let's switch on over and check out the Armscor Cowboy action loads. Now these are 250 grain. And again, we don't really know what velocity to expect because there's nothing on the case. $55. And we're starting with our Bond Arms Rowdy Derringer again. And you know, these grips that Bond Arms has put out for their Derringers are fantastic. All right, come on. Let's see. Can I hit anything with this Derringer? Whoa! 615.5. That is a lot more kick than we got out of the last Cowboy action load. And 612.6. All right, this is a fun little start. Looks like Armscor has put some oomph. And 606 for an average of 611.16. Or 611.6. All right. I see you there. Let's see what kind of performance we pick up out of the poly protector. Last time we only picked up about 70 more feet per second on average. But these Armscor, even though they label them as Cowboy action, seem to have a little bit more kick. $721, nice. $723 and 703.2 for an average of 716. Yeah, that's about 100 feet per second faster, with only about a half-inch more barrel, although we do have the longer cylinder travel. Let's check out how they do out of the Taurus Judge Magnum with the 3-inch barrel. $790. All right. There we go. $773 and $768 for an average of 776.5. So far, we keep picking up decent gains. Let's see if we continue to pick up velocity out of the Raging Hunter with its 5.125-inch barrel. I was pretty impressed with its performance with the last loading. 867.8, holy moly. 853.1 and 871.3. I'm impressed for an average of 864.1. It's another big pickup. Time to find out how they do out of the Taurus Judge Home Defender with a 13-inch barrel. $904, excellent. 905, that's pretty consistent. And 931. Okay. Our average is 913.8. Another nice pickup. Oh. I jumped the gun, folks. Quite literally jumped the gun. We skipped over the Rossi Brawler. All right. That's funny. I like that. I've never actually gotten to use jump the gun in a context revolving around firearms. That's hilarious. All right, let's see what we get out of the Rossi Brawler here with its 9-inch barrel. .879.4. Okay, that's nice. And again, these all handle very nicely. Yeah, there's some kick, but nothing that these nice grips that Taurus and Rossi put on their firearms can't handle. 855.6. And 880.7. All right, so we have an average of 871.9 for the Rossi Brawler. Excellent. And you know, the powder kick out of the Taurus Home Defender isn't bad at all. I'm not really feeling anything in this area. These guards are doing a good job, and these loadings aren't loaded up with a lot of powder that goes unburnt in this. So it does well in that regard too. So, all right, let's move on to our last one for the Armscors. We are using the Rossi Survival Gun. $927.8. Okay. $935.7. And 934.7 for an average of 932.7. Well, we got very consistent, very good performance out of those Armscor. They're well priced. The performance was a nice linear progression through barrel lengths. I could recommend that as a 45 Colt store-bought factory just generic load to use. It handled nicely out of every single one of those firearms. Yeah, so we're doing, out of that Rossi Survival Gun, we're doing just under 500 foot-pounds of energy. That works. That is a sufficient amount of energy for a survival gun, for a gun that you're probably shooting at 50 yards or less. I'm impressed. Good job, Armscor, on a nice basic 45 Colt ammunition that you can just pick up at like a Dunham's. All right, so Underwood. Man, I may have been saying double tap all video. Underwood is our next 45 Colt. If any of these are going to be hot, I feel like it's going to be this Underwood here. And again, we're going to start with the Bond Arms Rowdy. If any of this is going to be slightly uncomfortable to shoot, it'll be this. Man, that shot way to the left. And it didn't pick it up. .621.6. Okay. That's pretty average. Well, not pretty average, but it's similar to what we got from the Armscor. And 627.7. Man, I don't know if I'll ever get any good with these Derringers. I need a lot more practice. All right, but our average is 624.7. So a slight gain over the Armscor. Let's see what kind of performance we get out of the Taurus Poly Protector. Excuse me, folks. 722.4. 709.5. And 681.9 for an average of 704.6. That's a little bit lower than the Armscor out of the Poly Protector. Let's see what kind of results we get out of the Magnum. Taurus Judge Magnum with the 3-inch barrel. Whew. 799.9. 790.6 and 758.9 or 759.8 for an average of 783.4. That's a little bit faster than the Armscor. I feel like we're getting a little bit more speed because we have a little bit less weight, a little bit less grainage. Time to see how it does out of the Raging Hunter. So far, this guy has been a fantastic performer today. I've been very impressed. .906. And again, we're at a 5 and 5.125 inch barrel. 933.8. And 876.4 for an average of 905.4. Yeah, okay, so that's the best performance out of the Raging Hunter all day, or all video. Let's see if we continue to pick up some nice performance improvements out of the Rossi Brawler. .886.5. All right. .881.0. And 881.4 for an average of 883. All right, so the Brawler seems to get slightly less performance. Well, no, that's not true across everything. But the Raging Hunter and some of the ammos has had a better average than the Brawler. This foregrip on the Brawler, it's pretty easy to hold on to with this kind of ammunition. I don't know yet if we shot some 3-inch Magnum 410 loads out of it, if it would do such a good job. But so far, as a foregrip, even though it's tiny, it does pretty well. All right, let's try out our Taurus Home Defender. 907.7, 907.7, 935.4. All right, so it looks like we only picked up 2 of those shots. So since I have extra, let's get a third. $919.8 for an average of 921. All right, so I did feel a lot more powder impact on my wrist from the Underwood than I did from the Armscor or the just Cowboy action loads. I didn't feel anything from those, but from the Underwood I did. So even though it has a slight performance, a slightly faster performance out of with the Underwood over the Armscor. If I was to pick either one to put through that, it would be the Armscor at this point. All right, time to try our last one, the Rossi Survival Rifle. I have been very impressed with this guy in every video that we have used it in. 972.7, nice. Nope. It really ejects that spent casing pretty nicely. 971.7. And our final shot of the video. 1033.1. It heard me say final shot, and it was like, hold my beer, guys. I'm going to perform for you. All right, so our average performance was 992.5. That's nice. That was interesting, folks. You know, out of all 3 of them, the Armscor was a nice, solid performer. I liked it the most in any of them. So if I was going to buy just one ammo going forward for all of these in 45 Colt, it might just be that Armscor. But the Underwood, it really stepped up out of that Rossi Survival Rifle. And if I was going to buy one specifically for the Rossi Survival Rifle, it might be that one. Yeah, I don't know. I was impressed all around. These are great Cowboy loads, although I don't know if I'd pay that kind of price for them again. I've got $66.93 on there. That's pretty expensive. I might try to find some cheaper alternatives for that. Our Schofields and other videos did a better job, I think, with about the same level of energy, or close to it. So yeah, anyway, guys, that was a lot of fun for me. I hope it was a lot of fun for you to see how much barrel length actually matters for 45 Colt. We saw nice, steady improvements across almost all of them, with just a little outlier here and there. See you guys in the next video. Bye.